Would legalization of crack, heroin, and all other drugs be dangerous, bad, and hurt many people? Let's take things one step at a time and begin with a softer drug, marijuana. Marijuana is a bulky substance, and it is much easier to trace and successfully prohibit than, let's say, cocaine. That drives the price of marijuana up. It becomes harder to get, people start growing more potent marijuana, and more people are driven to other drugs like cocaine, crack, or heroin. Crack would possibly never exist if we had no war on drugs. Why was it created in the first place? The preferred way to inject cocaine is by snorting it, and given the fact that it was getting more and more expensive, the drug dealers found it more difficult to sell $5 and $10 doses on the streets. They started mixing cocaine with baking soda and other substances and created crack to be sold for cheaper. It must be noted that people who sell drugs are no different from you and I. They are also in the business and have entrepreneurial qualities, but are less concerned about hurting people. They are more irresponsible in that sense, but they are trying to make a profit, and they discover that mixing cocaine with baking soda or other substances will bring more profit and increase sales. Now, the real tragedy with crack are the crack babies. They didn't choose to be born unhealthy, deformed, or with mental impairments. Under the current system, a pregnant woman that is a drug addict is afraid to seek treatment or have a baby in a hospital because she will be thrown into jail and considered a criminal. Under a legalized system, she could seek help for her newborn. And you can say whatever you want, but even crack addict mothers have a feeling of responsibility to their children, and there is no doubt that under the legalized system, there would be much more effective ways to help pregnant women or persuade people to go off drugs while having children. Another pattern that could be observed over the years with legal drugs is that people tend to go from strong drugs to weak ones. Just like one goes from hard liquor to beer and then lighter beer, or from cigarettes with no filters in the early days to cigarettes with filters and low tar, and now to e-cigarettes. The opposite could be observed for illegal drugs. It is true that with legalization of drugs, there might be more people who will use those drugs. This is not an absolute statement, but legalizing drugs will destroy the black market and bring the price of drugs down drastically. And by law of economics, when something becomes cheaper, the demand for it will grow. Consumption of drugs when legalized might go up initially, but over time it goes down to very low levels. Netherlands today has the lowest marijuana consumption in Europe, although they are well known for their tolerance for soft drugs. The interesting phenomenon is that the average age of a pot smoker has gone up as well, which means there are not as many new recruits. Same will be true for the state of Oregon. We must ask ourselves, is it the proper role of the government to prohibit drugs? As John Stuart Mill said in 1859, the proper role of the government is to prevent others from harming an individual. His own good, either physical or moral, is not a sufficient warrant. How relevant, wouldn't you agree? The case for prohibiting drugs or mandating drugs is as strong or actually as weak as prohibiting people from overeating or drinking soda or skydiving. We all know that more people die from overeating than deaths from all illegal drugs or COVID combined. If in principle it is okay for government to prevent you from taking drugs because it causes you harm, or mandating a vaccine because it protects you, why isn't it okay for them to pass a law prohibiting overeating? One could argue that people who use drugs do harm others, but if you look closely, it is primarily because they are prohibited. People are robbed on the street because a drug addict is trying to get money for his next expensive dose. You have people killed in drug wars. You have the corruption of the people in government. You have the taxpayers who have to pay for more prisons, prisoners, and policemen. You get the rest of us who get worse protection from police because they have to waste a large amount of monetary and human resources on fighting the impossible war on drugs. And you have other countries like Colombia where US has killed many people to stop drugs from coming here. What right do we have to invade another country just because we can't enforce our own laws? In fact, the government has been the primary protector of cartel. Take any business like selling t-shirts. Anyone can go into that business and you can have unlimited competition from all around the world. but it is very hard for an average person to go into the business of dealing drugs, which makes it possible only for the cartel to operate in the business because they have enough money to have sophisticated methods of transporting drugs, distributing them, and bribing the officials. In addition, by arresting local drug users, the government keeps the price of drugs high. What else could cartel ask for? Full monopoly with low competition and high prices is already provided to them by the government. This does not mean that there are some conspiracy theories of government helping cartel, but we can observe over and over how government can have good intentions but very bad results. And even if on ethical grounds you believe that it's right to protect someone from doing heroin, it is a terrible mistake to try to pass a law against it. More lives are lost to alcohol than heroin, so if there is a case for passing a law to make heroin illegal, there should be a case to make alcohol illegal, and we have already seen the effects of that. During Prohibition, alcohol was easily available. Bootlegging was common. Speakeasies were on every corner. Any idea that alcohol prohibition was keeping people from drinking was absurd. But more on that, you converted law-obedient citizens into bootleggers and criminals. You created the Al Capones and the gang wars, and had higher cases of alcohol poisoning from illegal, badly mixed alcohol. As mentioned before, it might be true that with legalization of drugs, you might have some additional drug users that you wouldn't have otherwise. But let's for a second think of it in another way. A child who was shot in a mass shooting is an innocent victim in every sense of the term. A person who decides to take drugs is not an innocent victim. He has chosen for himself to do so, and there should be much less sympathy towards him. It is immoral to impose heavy costs on other people to protect people from their own choices. Don't forget that United States has the highest prisoner population in the world, and most of the drug arrests are for possession by casual users. Do you think it is proper for someone who wants to smoke a joint to go to jail? It is disgraceful. How will legalization change us? It would decrease the number of prisons by half. It would decrease the number of prisoners by half. Makes us have fewer homicides. Give people the chance not to be afraid for their life for smoking a joint. Ensure them about getting drugs of good quality and provide higher general safety for everyone. All currently illegal drugs should be subject to the exact same rules as alcohol or cigarettes are today. While alcohol and cigarettes cause way more deaths than heroin and crack, there are way fewer innocent victims. The major innocent victims in the case of alcohol are people killed by drunk driving, and there must be laws against that, just like there must be laws against driving under the influence of marijuana or cocaine. In conclusion, there is nothing scary, dangerous, or bad about legalizing drugs. The only scary part is to continue on the path of keeping them illegal. I hope you are having a nice day. Feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos. And remember, we have been fighting the war on drugs for over 50 years now. The time has come to fight the war sober.